Hey y'all, it's Chris with Rockin Farm. It is time once again for us to do one of our little garden tours that we do kind of at the transition of each month. So we're right here at the tail end of June. Tomorrow's July 1st, and we're out here doing another garden tour. And y'all, my garden is finally starting to look like a garden. We've had some hot weather, we've had some rain, and that's what my garden really needs to get kick-started. It is so far behind where it has been every year since we've lived on this property, but that's okay. We're still going to get some fruit out of it. We're still going to get some veg out of it. And it's yet another year where we're learning some lessons. So everything's all good, right? We'll start right here on the outside of the garden technically, but these are our cantaloupes and they are doing really well. We've got lots of blooms in here. They're really starting to take off. I can't tell you what kind of cantaloupe this is because we got a really good cantaloupe one year and we just saved all the seeds out of it. And then the next year they grew and they were still really good cantaloupes. So we saved all the seeds out of those and we just grow these cantaloupes that we don't know what they are. This is probably actually a better view of our asparagus bed from the back here than it would be if we go up to the front. We've got a whole bunch of spears that are still growing in there. Now that so many of them have gone to fern, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but we can still come in here and we can still harvest some asparagus if we can find them. And here we have a whole bunch more of those Jubilee watermelons. They haven't started going to bloom yet, although, oh, there we go. Actually, I'm a little bit of a liar. We do have one bloom right there, so the watermelon season will be starting very soon. Back here along the fence, this is actually kind of new this year because that's a new box, but we've got all different kinds of Roma and beefsteak tomatoes that are growing along the back fence here. I just tacked another piece of fence up top so they'd have a nice big piece of trellis to grow on. But I mean, look at all those Romas, y'all. We've been pulling Romas off of these, but they just keep coming and keep coming, so you really can't ask for better than that. Our jalapeno shrubs are still really small, but I'll tell you what, they're producing like crazy, y'all. And now that it's starting to get really hot, they're gonna really start to kick off in size. The hotter it gets, the bigger these peppers get. They just love the heat. But we have been getting a lot of production out of them and pulling quite a few jalapenos off these small shrubs. The poblanos took off a little bit earlier as far as size. Let me see if I can stand back a little bit so we can get a good idea of how much taller these are than the little jalapenos that you can see back here. But yeah, these shrubs definitely are kicking off in size. We're getting a lot of fruit on them, and we've noticed that this year we're getting a little bit better size out of them. We're going to try two things with these poblano peppers this year. We're going to try going through the shrub and thinning out the fruit so that the plant has to put less energy into the fruit that are on it, and maybe we'll grow them bigger. We're also going to try hitting these with a little fertilizer. We've gotten a couple of really good sized, almost like what you buy in the store, poblano peppers off of these plants. So I really want to keep that going because whatever variety I've got here, I'm getting the size out of them that I want. I just need to keep encouraging them to do so. This is one of those things I'm almost embarrassed to show everybody in the garden, but it is what it is. So this area is pretty much all perennials and it's pretty much all herbs. And y'all, it has just become a jungle. This wild dewberry or wild blackberry has taken off to the point that it is just completely enveloping the sage. It's completely enveloping the oregano, and it's just heading on down the fence. Our marshmallow has taken off so big this year, y'all. I mean, these are 6-foot tall plants and they're just covered in these beautiful marshmallow flowers. But this is that one that I talked to y'all about. If you take that leaf off of there, dry it out and boil it into a tea, man, it really helps with that achy stomach. The mint is doing exactly what I want it to do out in this corner, and I think before long, the mint and the blackberries are just gonna be fighting over which one's gonna choke out which one first. These are just some sweet potato greens that have come back from roots that got left in the ground last year, but I'll tell you what, y'all, we just let them keep going because I'll just come out here and yank a bunch out, and the pigs absolutely love these sweet potato greens. Let me just clarify one more time for those of you that don't know, potato greens are toxic. Do not eat those, do not feed those to your animals. Sweet potato greens are perfectly edible and they're delicious, especially if you like wilt them, kind of like you would spinach. Serve them up in some eggs, throw them in a soup. Sweet potato greens are fantastic and your livestock will devour them. Walking onion patch is going absolutely insane, y'all, and before you know it, we are going to be harvesting walking onions, and we will be having some bulbs to sell. For those of you who do not have walking onions in your garden, you cannot beat having a little bit of perennial onion flavor that just comes back year after year. Plant it once and forget about it, y'all. The next thing you know, you're going to have a patch. All the garlic is no more, and the squash are taken off. You know, obviously they're still really little. I've got some over here, and I believe these are my patty pans. Lots of blooms on the patty pans, so hopefully we'll be getting some squash out of these very soon. Most of these, I believe, are Mexican gray or some other form of zucchini. They're still little guys, but before you know it, we're going to be swimming in squash and zucchini. Our little basil plants are doing well. I do need to come out here and give them a little trim before they go to flower. Dill is doing good. Beets are still doing good. We're pulling beet greens off of these. Chives are still doing great. And the chamomile is going absolutely nuts. That's one of those little tasks that I can just give one of the kids. You know, it takes them 15, 20 minutes, and I just take a bowl and go pick all the flowers off the chamomile. They bring them in. We just let them dry on our counter. Basically, I've got a big bowl full of chamomile, and I just give it a little stir with my hand every day, and we let all that moisture work its way out of it. And now I've gotten to the point where I could probably make 50 or 60 cups of chamomile tea with the amount of chamomile that we've already dried, and the plant is still just blooming. Got some good sized corn stalks over here. We're really hoping that some of these corn stalks, and it's looking like they really might, some of these corn stalks are going to be ready for a 4th of July barbecue cookout. I'll run you down the fence line here just so anybody who says you can't grow tomatoes in buckets, most of the tomatoes that we grow in buckets are cherry varieties, but don't sit here and tell me that you can't grow tomatoes in a 5-gallon bucket, because everything that I'm showing you right now is proof that you would be wrong. We've got yellow pears, we've got cherries, we've got sweets, we got sweet minis. I mean, we got all different kinds of little cherry tomatoes on this bucket line over here. So any of you who live in an apartment, any of you who only have a patio to grow on, you can grow tomatoes and you can get some of that fresh tomato flavor. Even a little patio tomato, if you want to get a little bit more size and the cherry tomato isn't enough for you, this patio tomato is doing just fine. Here's another place where the garlic is all gone and the squash is just going insane. I've got squash down both sides of this. It's all blooming. I decided to go ahead and leave this divider in here. This was originally going to be more tomatoes, but it just didn't work out. But by having this divider in here, it's really going to kind of help keep the squash separated as far as the leaf structure goes, which will just make pruning easier. We like corn enough, and this was actually going to be an empty bed just because it got so late in the season. So we just decided to go ahead and drop some more corn in here, and it's really coming along as well. It's about 3 weeks behind the other corn, so we're just hoping to get those successional harvests. Anaheim chili peppers, they just keep on producing. So what do you do with Anaheims? Well, if you're in almost any other place in the country, chili rellenos. Anaheim chili pepper is a very popular pepper for chili rellenos. Here in Texas, the poblano pepper is a more popular pepper for chili rellenos, and when we moved to Texas, I fell in love with it. So I don't necessarily love the style of chili rellenos that they eat here in Texas because they stuff them with all kinds of meats, and I'm more of just a Monterey Jack cheese inside of the chili dipped in egg type of guy. So you know, that's just my personal preference. So I have adopted the poblano pepper for the chili relleno, but I still eat them kind of a Sonoran style, which is just plain cheese without all of the taco meat and stuff in them. But Anaheims are very prolific chili pepper plants. You get a lot of Anaheims off of a plant. And if you don't do chili rellenos, what are Anaheims good for? Throw them under your broiler in your oven, peel those skins off, slice them up into strips, weigh them out into whatever amounts you want, throw them in bags, and now you've got those chili peppers that are just ready to eat anytime. You can even dice them up in advance, and now you've got your diced green chili peppers. The stuff you buy in the cans at the store, you don't need to buy that in the store. Grow it in your garden. I've got some training I need to do over here, but these are actually pumpkins, Seminole pumpkins, and we're gonna go ahead and try and train these up here on the arch trellis, because then that way we don't have to let the bugs get to the pumpkins on the ground. Now, I'm not real concerned about if these pumpkins fall, because I'm actually growing these Seminole pumpkins primarily because I think they're cool. I want to harvest a bunch of seed out of them so that I have Seminole pumpkin seed going forward into the future. But for right now, the reason I'm growing these Seminole pumpkins is to feed them to my pigs. A lot of people don't realize this, but pumpkin is a very good like worming agent for pigs. So instead of always having to pump your pigs full of ivermectin or something else to keep the worms down, you can just feed them lots and lots of pumpkin, and that'll help do the same thing. This is kind of the pepper wall over here. We started picking, these are really, really cool. See this little tiny bell pepper? Well, that little tiny bell pepper is called a maxi bell, and it is supposed to be a bell pepper that has some spice to it. So we're gonna let these guys on here turn red, and we're gonna see if it does have a little bit of spice to that regular bell pepper. The Marconis are doing okay, not great. I think we've got some fertilization issues, and because of all of the rain, if you look at that leaf right there, a lot of yellowing with dark green vein, that tells me that we need iron. Having a lot of rain is a big cause of iron deficiency, so I just need to I need to get some chelated iron and get it on these plants and help them get back to where they want to produce a little bit better. And here's where we start getting into some pretty cool work on the arch trellises here. Cucumbers are going crazy. We're doing our best to keep them trained. They have started producing. We've pulled about 4 or 5 cucumbers off of here. Really got to come in here and look, because those cucumbers like to hide, but I mean, you can see some of the little ones that are growing in here. But for right now, y'all, this here is my pride and joy. I've got 2 different kinds of long beans growing here. They're like yard longs and Chinese noodle or something like that. I don't remember exactly what they're called, but y'all, I will never try to grow pole beans or bush green beans ever again. Last night, my wife and I came out here and harvested probably 50 or 60 of these long beans. And y'all, they're green beans. That's what they are. They're just kind of a different style. So if I take a bean that's, 36 inches long, cut the 2 ends off and cut it up into 1-inch pieces, I mean, I've got the equivalent of picking like 17 or 18 regular green beans. The problem with green beans, when you're trying to can them or when you're trying to preserve them, if you've only got 5 or 6 plants, you're never going to get enough to can or preserve, because they produce, but they just don't produce in enough volume for you to be able to get like a quart of green beans. So when you're coming through each day to harvest and you notice that you're harvesting, I don't know, 15 or 20 beans, that's great to throw in a stir fry, great for a meal, but it's not really enough to can. So then you throw them in the fridge and you come back the next day and grab another 10, and then come back the next day and grab another 5. And now you're starting to feel like maybe you have enough to get a couple of pints out of it. And then the ones that you picked 5 days ago are starting to go bad. So I am loving these yard long beans that I can come out here, harvest one day and say, okay, that's enough for me to get a couple of quarts or 4 or 5 pints out of these beans, because by the time you cut them up into those 1-inch strips, you just have so much mass there to go ahead and do the canning with. So these purple ones, y'all, when you cook them, they do turn green. I'm gonna let these go another day or so, because they'll grow another 6 or 8 inches. These are some ones that we missed out on, but I mean, this is how long they get, y'all. So let me try to give you an idea. I'm not even sure how to really show you how to measure these. They are about a yard long, y'all, 36 inches or so. And right now they're really, really soft because we let them go too far. So now we're leaving them on here and letting them go to seed so that we can harvest the bean out of them and replant them in other places and in the garden next year. But basically, you wait until they get about this long, and then you harvest them before they start getting fat and turning soft. You can see, y'all, that we have a ton of beans here. So, I mean, with everything I harvested yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and go in and can those now. But in the next couple of days, I'm going to be coming out here and harvesting a whole bunch more. I'm telling you, y'all, I will never waste my time trying to put in 5 or 10 green bean bushes ever again, unless you have the land to just plant a row of them and have like 30 bushes to where every time you go out there to harvest, you've got enough to can. These are the way to go. I mean, look. Well, y'all, I tried to make that the abbreviated version of a garden tour because I didn't want to push this into 45 minutes like I have in the past. If y'all need me to slow down, just go ahead and put in the comment section down there that you don't mind 45-minute videos and you want me to slow down. For those of you all that like the shorter version, go ahead and let me know. We like the shorter version. As always, if y'all have any questions, hit me up. Drop them down in the comment section or shoot me an email. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and go check out the website, rockin8farm.com. And until I see y'all again, happy gardening, be happy, and live healthy.